The XFL completed its first week of football in nearly 2 decades this weekend. And I think there's some promise to this. I think the first thing we got to bring up, though, is you got to remember, you don't compare this league to the NFL. It's not the same talent. Like, I know a lot of people look at the product on the field and say, oh, it's sloppy. But you have to remember that the XFL is closer to a college type of product than it is to an NFL product. And you see them kind of compare that a lot in a lot of the statistics or the setups of the game being closer to college rules than it is to NFL rules. And for good reason, because these aren't NFL players. You have to keep in mind, if these guys were good enough to be in the NFL, they would be in the NFL. But when you put all that into consideration, when you would have thought a lot of these players, especially from a quarterbacking standpoint, would have probably struggled here, I think it was a pretty good product. I mean, the number one position here you're going to look at is obviously the quarterbacking position, because you want to see that rhythm, that flow. But when you consider the XFL, you want to see more of that read, run pass option, some more of that run game, because again, we bring up the college stuff. When you watch college, you don't expect every single quarterback to lace it in there. But let me tell you what, if there was some nice surprises out of the XFL this season or this weekend, it was the quarterback position. Now there's a couple teams, there was some struggles. That's going to happen, especially when you got to pick, again, quarterbacks outside of the college, outside of the NFL. You're going to get left with what's out there. But PJ Walker, man, you talk about a guy that was a very pleasant surprise and a guy that was just lacing passes in there, throw after throw down the field. It was one of those guys you like said, look, this league can be legit. There's guys out here that can make plays that aren't going to embarrass themselves, and PJ Walker was one of those guys this weekend. I mean, I think we all had some sort of expectation for guys like Landry Jones or Cardell Jones, but for PJ Walker, of all guys, to come in there and just kill it, that's big for the XFL. I think the kickoffs are great. Personally, always been a huge fan of kickoffs. Always wanted. It's an exciting part of the game. You can't take kickoffs out of the game, and that's what the NFL wants to do. So what's the XFL do? They say, you know what? We're going to look at this. Everybody's worried about the player's safety. We won't talk about how the offensive linemen probably have way, further concussion problems than any person on a kickoff team ever will. But we'll continue to worry about that. And, we'll generate a system where these guys can't come flying down the field, but they can still kick off and return the ball, which we're seeing the XFL do. Albeit it looks strange right now, it's working. I'm a big fan of it. You see them getting the betting involved, showing the spreads on the scoreboard. That's huge. That is absolutely huge, considering how many people love just betting on sports in general. You want to see them get fantasy sports involved in some way if they can do that as well. And that's going to be a big hit, and that's going to keep people engaged into the game of the XFL. But let me tell you what, if there was some problems I did have this weekend with the XFL, I like the ideas of having sideline interviews. I think it's cool, but it's something that can't be overdone. You got to keep in mind, when it comes to press conferences, when it comes to interviews, everybody gets asked the same questions. We know what happens. Somebody wins a Super Bowl today. What are they going to go up to the player and ask? They're going to say, oh, well, what do you think about this win? How did you feel about your opponent? They're going to be like, oh, that was a great game. Team played great. They did great. I did great. It was a great game by them guys. They're going to say the same thing every time. And that's the thing where you go to the sideline, if you're doing that 10, 15 times a game, it starts to feel repetitive really quickly. I think it's pretty funny when you go out there and stick a mic in the kicker's face after he misses one, but I don't know. I think that's something, it's not in any sport for a reason. It's something you can kind of push off until 1 or 2 times a game, maybe 3 or 4, but don't throw it too much where it starts to get stale really quickly. Still not sure what to think about the live mic when it comes to play calling, being that anybody can hear that. But I guess if you want to play the game, the defense knows what's coming, stop it. Here's the play, stop the play. How can the two teams match up knowing what's going to happen? That's something I feel like it's going to take some time to play out to see how something like that goes. Sometimes I like the mystery, but at the same time, it's really nice to be able to say, hey, this is what's going to be going on in this play. How are they going to execute it? And it can be kind of talked through before the game or the play even gets started. Overall, the weekend ratings for it, they were better than the AAF. I think they have some promise here. Again, you talk about it being backed by a guy like Vince McMahon, who has, more importantly here, done this before. He's done it and he's failed, learning from his mistakes. He's proven he can run a business and grow it at the same time, and you see him coming with the AAF here. I think this league, for now, has the ability to keep making moves forward.